waiter's knees hit the marble floor. And in that moment, a billionaire's world collapsed. Let me tell you how we got here. The ballroom went silent. Not because the music stopped, not because a glass shattered, but because something happened that had never happened before. Under crystal chandeliers and watchful eyes, Cassandra Vale, the billionaire's feared fiancée, raised her hand toward a trembling waiter. Everyone knew what that gesture meant. Jobs didn't survive Cassandra's anger, but just before she spoke, a quiet voice cut through the silence, calm, steady, unafraid. It belonged to the newest maid, a woman no one had noticed, and no one expected to challenge power. And standing just beyond the ballroom doors, unseen, Daniel Whitmore stopped walking, because in that moment, everything he believed about the woman he planned to marry began to collapse. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Tonight, you're going to discover 4 things. Who is the maid, really? Why does everyone fear Cassandra? What secret is the waiter hiding? And why will this night change a billionaire forever? But first, you need to understand the world they all lived in. A world where power wore designer dresses, where silence was survival, and where one woman was about to shatter everything. The Whitmore Grand Hotel, 5th Avenue, New York City. Annual charity gala, 800 guests, $50,000 tables. And one rule that everyone understood: do not upset Cassandra Vale. She moved through that ballroom like she owned it, because in every way that mattered, she did. Engagement ring worth $2 million. Wedding planned for spring, and a reputation that made grown men look at the floor when she passed. But tonight, something went wrong. Samuel Carter, a waiter in his early 50s, stumbled near the main table. A tray tilted. Champagne flutes wobbled. Nothing broke. Nothing spilled. But Cassandra saw it. She rose from her seat slowly, smoothed her gown, and walked toward him. Every conversation in that ballroom stopped. "What?" she said, voice like ice. "Do you think you're doing?" Samuel's hands shook. "Ma'am, I apologize. You just..." Cassandra's smile was thin. "You just nearly ruined a $5,000 dress. You just embarrassed me in front of the mayor. You just proved you don't belong here." She gestured to security. "Remove him, and make sure he understands he won't work in this city again." Samuel's face went white. "Please," he whispered. "Please. I need this job. I can't..." "You should have thought of that," Cassandra said coldly, "before you disrespected me." And that's when she appeared. Lena Brooks, 32 years old, hired 3 weeks ago, barely noticed by anyone. She stepped forward calmly, hands folded. "Ma'am," Lena said quietly, "please allow me to explain." The ballroom held its breath. Cassandra turned slowly. "Excuse me." "The tray," Lena continued, voice steady, "has a loose bolt on the left handle. Maintenance was notified yesterday. Samuel reported it himself." She looked at Samuel gently. "He's been carrying uneven weight all evening. It wasn't carelessness. It was equipment failure." Cassandra's eyes narrowed. "And who?" she said softly, dangerously. "Are you?" "A maid, ma'am." "Then perhaps," Cassandra said, "you should remember your place." Lena didn't flinch. "My place," she said quietly, "is to tell the truth." And that's when Samuel dropped to his knees. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand who these people really were. Daniel Whitmore, 51 years old, self-made billionaire, built the Whitmore Hotel empire from a single property in Boston. He was known for 3 things: fairness, loyalty to his workers, and silence. Daniel didn't speak often, but when he did, people listened. He believed in respect, in dignity, in giving people a second chance. And for 20 years, that belief built him an empire. But 2 years ago, he met Cassandra Vale. She was stunning, educated, charming in public. She knew how to move through his world, how to smile for cameras, how to host galas and charm investors. And Daniel believed he'd found a partner. But behind closed doors, Cassandra was someone else entirely. She fired housekeepers for folding towels wrong, screamed at kitchen staff for plating errors, threatened reputations, families, futures. And the worst part? No one told Daniel, because Cassandra made it very clear. Complain, and you're gone. Not just from the hotel, from the industry. I know people, she'd say with a smile. Everywhere. Workers whispered in hallways, avoided eye contact, counted the days until the wedding, hoping things might change. But they never did. And then, Lena Brooks arrived. She didn't come to New York looking for a fight. She came because her mother was sick. Stage 3 cancer. Medical bills piling up. And the Whitmore Hotel paid better than anywhere else. Lena grew up in a small town in Ohio. Her father was a factory worker. Her mother cleaned houses. And they taught her one thing above all else. Stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. So when Lena started working at the Whitmore Grand, she noticed things others had stopped seeing. The way staff flinched when Cassandra walked by. The way conversations stopped when she entered a room. The way Samuel Carter, a kind man, a hard worker, looked like he was barely holding on. But Lena didn't come to change anything. She just came to do her job. Sometimes, though, truth arrives without permission. Samuel Carter wasn't just a waiter. He was a father. His daughter, Emily, was 16, bright, athletic, full of life. Until 6 months ago, when she collapsed at soccer practice. Rare heart condition, 2 surgeries, months in the hospital, and insurance that covered almost nothing. Samuel worked double shifts, took every overtime hour, smiled through exhaustion because this job, this one job, was the only thing keeping his daughter alive. And now, on his knees in front of 800 people, he was watching it all disappear. "Please," he whispered again, tears in his eyes. "Please, I'll do anything. I just need this job." Cassandra looked down at him. No sympathy, no hesitation. "Security," she said. And that's when Lena did something no one expected. She knelt down beside Samuel, not to beg, not to plead, but to look Cassandra in the eye. "This man," Lena said quietly, "has a daughter in the hospital. He reported the equipment issue. He's done nothing wrong." Cassandra's jaw tightened. "I don't care about his personal problems. I care about standards." Lena stood, slowly. "Then maybe," she said, "your standards need to include basic human decency." The ballroom was frozen. No one had ever spoken to Cassandra Vale like that. Not staff, not guests. No one. Cassandra's voice dropped to a whisper. "You just ended your career." But before she could say another word, the ballroom doors opened, and someone walked in that no one was expecting. If you're still watching, I see you. Comment, "I'm still here," and tell us your city. We read every single one. Now, let's talk about the woman who just walked in. Margaret Whitmore, 73 years old, Daniel's mother, and the woman who built the foundation of everything he believed. 20 years ago, Margaret ran the Whitmore Foundation. She fought for workers' rights, for fair wages, for dignity in the workplace. But 2 years ago, after a falling out with Daniel over business decisions, she stepped away. They hadn't spoken since, until tonight. Margaret walked into that ballroom slowly, leaning on a cane, eyes sharp as ever. She didn't look at the guests. She looked at Cassandra. And Cassandra's face went pale. "Margaret," Daniel said, surprised, moving toward her. "What are you?" She raised a hand gently. "Not yet, Daniel." She walked past him, past the frozen guests, straight to where Cassandra stood. And then she asked one question that stopped the room cold. "Cassandra, how many people have you fired without my son knowing?" Cassandra's mouth opened, closed. "I don't know what you—" 23, Margaret said calmly. 23 employees in the last 18 months. Housekeepers, waiters, cooks, all terminated by you. None reported to Daniel. Daniel turned slowly. "What?" Margaret reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. "I've spent the last 6 months talking to former staff, documenting complaints, recording testimonies." She looked at her son. "You taught me to fight for people, Daniel. So I did." She opened the folder. Severance violations, intimidation, threats, blacklisting. She looked at Cassandra. "All of it traceable to you." Cassandra's mask cracked. "These people were incompetent. These people," Margaret said quietly, "were human beings." Daniel's voice was low, controlled. "Is this true?" Cassandra turned to him, eyes wide. "Daniel, you have to understand. Is this true?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Daniel looked at Samuel, still on his knees. At Lena, standing calm and steady. At his mother, who had fought for the truth he'd been blind to. And then he said 3 words. "This ends tonight." What happened next wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic, but it was final. Daniel asked Cassandra to leave, not with security, not with a scene. Just leave. The engagement was paused publicly. Her involvement in company affairs ended. And by morning, the legal team was reviewing every termination she'd made. Samuel Carter was reinstated, with back pay, and a personal apology from Daniel. Lena Brooks was promoted quietly, not with fanfare, but with respect. And Margaret stayed for coffee the next morning. For the first time in 2 years, Daniel and his mother sat together and talked about what really mattered. Because sometimes the people who love you most are the ones willing to tell you the hardest truths. There were no villains arrested that night, no screaming matches, no revenge, just accountability, just consequences, just the quiet, powerful truth that dignity cannot be bought. Power reveals who we are, but silence reveals who we protect. So, was justice truly served? Would you have spoken up like Lena, or stayed silent like everyone else? Tell us what you think in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And if this story moved you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who believes dignity still matters. And subscribe, because we tell stories where truth always finds its way to the surface. And if you think this was powerful, wait until you see what happened in our next story.